to my channel. I really didn't expect to do another video, but I've been thinking about it, and if you guys are aware, yes, I have come back to YouTube. In fact, I have been back for a little bit. I've just had a very odd journey in coming back, and it was only over the last month or so that I came back on here and gave you guys an update of what's happened over the last, what is it, almost 2 years at this point? It's so funny when I remember people would always say, oh, I'm so addicted to the attention, but like, I wasn't around for, I only put myself on this platform when I was 32. Was I 32? And I'll take years off. Like, I don't care. I'll do whatever I need to for whatever's going on in my life. But I did an update video. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll have links in the description. I'll have a link in the cards up here. As well as I did a video where, I basically, and I got some flack, but I talked about my opinions on some things with Shane Dawson. So that was something that I felt really compelled to, in my heart, talk about. I don't know, I've been kind of thinking about it, and I will tell you guys, if you didn't know, I am back, and you can find me on Katie's Insight. So again, link in the description, link in the cards up here. Make sure and go subscribe and hit notifications so you can see what's going on there. I just want to give you guys a heads up. Right now I'm covering a lot of stimulus news. I have been since May. I had a channel that I built to up to 100,000 subscribers in 3 months for a different company. I left, and now I'm building another one, and within, I think, 2 months, we're up to almost 12,000. So we're getting there, and like 500,000 views. So I'm very, very excited. And I'm very excited about this video because I have a rainbow shirt. I love this shirt. This shirt is so much fun for me, and it's not just rainbow, but like it's like sunset colors. Oh, all those pastels. I love them. I love them. So I feel like I should apologize for being a bit goofier, but at the same time, honestly, this is my personality. And I think a lot of people didn't get to fully see this part of me because y'all saw me when I was sick and my body was really, really struggling, and I had all this stress going on and so much chronic pain. I couldn't function, couldn't read, couldn't do any of that. And I am doing so much better. So if you want to see updates on what's happened over the last year, and I've lost, I think up to date, about 130-ish pounds in a little over a year. It's been 14 months and I'm still on the bandwagon there. And it wasn't because I decided I'm going to buckle down and eat right. In fact, people don't believe me about this. They would have to live with me to know my eating right in what we think of in society caused me to gain all of that weight. I'm not saying not to eat right, but the specific issues I had backfired. So when I had people, I saw people in the comments, they'd be like, yeah, but you gotta admit you ate a lot. Well, my thing was I was having so many digestive issues. If I tried fasting, which I've done a lot of fasting before, I didn't eat enough, it would backfire, I'd gain weight. Didn't make any sense. So I had to eat enough for that to not happen, and the heavier foods, like things that were heavy on meat and carbohydrates, were more helpful and helped me maintain weight. I know it doesn't make any sense, but this is what we found out, the disorders that I have. Now it makes sense why all the rules in terms of what health is and isn't don't fit for me. I'm not going to go too much into that because I already have like an hour-long video about that. So you guys can go see that. But this video today, I wanted to talk about Princess Diana. And I wanted to offer some insights that I think a lot of people don't see when it comes to her. I'll tell you guys right now, I'm a huge fan of Princess Diana. Now, with that being said, I rarely say I'm a fan of somebody. And why is that? Because I feel like the word fan comes from the derivative of fanatic, right? And it's not like I know every single detail of her life, but she was one of those people growing up I felt extremely drawn to. There were a few people I feel like in society that, I feel like we're really on some level trying to do good, and you could kind of pick up on that, and I got that sense from her, and I always really liked her. And interestingly enough, when she passed, she was in France. I was in France at the exact same time. I was on my first trip to Europe when I was younger, and I remember I didn't know much about her at the time because I think I just turned 13. But I remember when I heard the news, we were in the hotel, we were on the way to the airport, and like my heart sank to my stomach. I felt horrible and I didn't understand why. And years later, as I really looked more into the situation, I have. Now, if you guys know, if you guys watch Netflix at all, and I'm huge on Netflixing, as you guys know, in terms of me trying to get better and not having left my house for a while. I mean, I left my house sometimes, but not much. I did tons of Netflixing. And one thing I got into was this show called The Crown. So there's going to be maybe some spoiler alerts if you haven't seen this. So I just kind of want to give you a heads up. I mean, it's all stuff in history. Granted, you know, some of it is not completely historically accurate. It's more of somebody's take. But The Crown is it's a series that follows what's happened to the royals in Europe. It's very, very interesting. Here's one interesting thing, because I've kind of been diving into this subject over the last couple of years. I find them fascinating and scary. There's a lot of what I call blank theories surrounding them. Please infer, because YouTube will be mad at me. And I can't say it. That's why I don't curse anymore. Y'all know I'm a sailor. I love to drop a bomb here and there, but I'm not allowed to, so I try not to. Doesn't mean I've changed in my real life, though. But there's a lot of blank theories surrounding this family. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. And there are a lot of people who suspect that there were foul, nasty intentions. I have to be very careful what I say on YouTube. I'm sorry, guys. But there were a lot of bad intentions with the people who actually did these sort of things when it came to Princess Diana and what act ultimately was her demise. And when you really look at it, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. There is a series, go check out on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but if you just look up anything about Princess Diana or, you know, the Queen of England, it will pop up, and it's a series that actually takes you through some of the history of the royal family. Did y'all know that they're actually Germans? They're Germans, and I think it was in World War I because of the issues they were having with Germany. They changed their names and tried to act like they just wiped away their lineage and changed it to Windsor, but it was something German, and they're all very German. In fact, there are a lot of blank theories about the Second World War, and so go check this out. There's, oh my gosh, there's a show on Netflix too, and I think it's just called Blank. So think what blank and then theories. What's before the theories? That word I can't say. So silly. Like, how ridiculous is YouTube that I can't say that word, y'all? But that's what it is, and they actually go into detail about some of the fact that some of the royals, because they actually come from German lineage, might have had some hands in there. It's really weird. But here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about Ms. Diana, Princess Diana. So for those of you that don't know, I'll just give a quick little overview. I feel like most people do. First of all, there's a lot of really interesting things, to say the least, when it comes to how they met. Charles was 31, and I believe Diana was 16 years old. And she said that on one of their first meetings, he quote unquote jumped on her. So remember the Shane Dawson video I did when I told you guys context in terms of the time of which something happens matters? Back then, age discrepancies weren't as big of a deal as we understand they are now. But there's also, you know, I mean, granted, it's like, yes, there were things that were taboo, but it was more looked at as taboo and what's looked at as social norms. Now we have more science, we have more research, we understand, like the videos I did on that one person and some other people on YouTube where I talked about age difference, especially between men being older and young women or teenagers, is very, very important, because your brain does not fully develop as a human until you are 25 years old, right around that time. And it has to do with your processing centers of weighing cause and effect. Those, and on top of that, also emotional self-control. I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of those younger years that were very chaotic. My situation's a little bit different. I know y'all know way too much about my situation, more than I would like people, but that's what you learn about putting yourself on the internet and privacy. But there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I really love Diana, and I want to go into some of the interesting things that I see and kind of, you know, I hate the term expose, but I kind of want to expose some things I think that nobody else is talking about and nobody else is seeing. I feel like something that I'm kind of good at is looking at a situation, removing all the buzzwords, all the buzz phrases, all the frill, all the pump, all the assumptions, and let's get down to what the actual meat and bones are and describing it. And I think that's something in the past, from some of my videos where I've analyzed certain YouTubers, people have enjoyed. So I kind of wanted to give this take on Princess Diana. So Princess Diana was 16 when she met him. She came from a broken home and came from a life where she was very, very lonely. So it was a lot of dysfunction. What's his, oh my gosh, I completely forgot his name. What's his name? The prince, Michael, no, that's Michael Jackson. Prince Andrew, no. Charles, what is wrong with me? Sorry, I'm filming this super late and I've been filming all day for the other channel. So Prince Charles, 31 and 16. That right there is a huge problem. And let me tell you about the society we lived in. Nobody saw it as a problem. So in fact, when they got together, when she was 18 and he was 33, when they officially got engaged, y'all gotta understand how young she was. I think about myself at 16, I cannot imagine I was half a functioning person. You don't know who you are. You don't know anything about the world at that time. And here comes this guy throwing himself at her. Now, today we look at that and we're like, well, duh, of course. Not only is that not appropriate, that's not safe for her, right? Obviously. I'm telling y'all, though, it was just a very different time. And in this different time, that was more acceptable. In fact, to other people, this looked like a fairy tale. And it was more of a norm for older men to want to get with younger women. Again, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And now we know more about these situations. So that right there created a huge imbalance of power. Top it off, they both come from dysfunctional families. Let's be clear. You think the Windsor family is functioning? These are a bunch of trained sociopaths and narcissists, y'all, and probably not very good people. And I'm sure they have their good points. I'm not saying they are all awful. I'm just saying, though, they literally call themselves the firm. And considering all the things we know and have heard about them in the past, doesn't look very good, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about their relationship. So Diana says she had this kind of intuitive knowing or sense that when it came to Charles, that she was never going to be queen, that her life was going to be very hard, but this is something she needed to do. Now, we know at the beginning of the relationship, first of all, Charles was cheating on her repeatedly with a woman named Camilla Parker Bowles. Now, later in life, they actually got together. I do kind of want to break that down, but the family basically refused to let him be with her because she was married at the time. She's also a divorcee, and they decided that's not a very good look for them. Again, guys, the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s, very different times. I know when my parents went through a divorce in the early 90s, that was still considered taboo. It was becoming more of a mainstream thing, but it was still a very taboo situation. Now it's MBD, no big deal. You just kind of assume marriages aren't going to last. But that's how this used to be, guys. And so their image of who Camilla was just not going to fly. So they forced him into a situation with Princess Diana. It was miserable for her. And she has talked in great, I think it was miserable for both of them. I think more so her because I think, and I'm going to try to be somewhat compassionate to Charles. I don't think in certain ways Charles might be as bad as some of the other family because he really tried to go against the grain, and I can always respect that. However, when you look at things like Prince Andrew and all the things we know about him, I don't trust any of these people. Let's be very clear. So some of these things that look like blank theories actually turned out to be fact, and thank God for those brave young women that stand up and they said what they needed to say. So in regard to all of this, Diana had a very, very difficult time. He was immediately cheating on her with Camilla Parker Bowles. He left her for weeks at a time by herself in the palaces alone. And she was not allowed to go anywhere. This is before the wedding, not really allowed to do anything, simply because of the press. And these were the people that had her kind of in control. And he wouldn't call her. She had a very, very difficult time. He was very emotionally distant and very emotionally cold. It seems like neither one of them understood the other one or could give the other one what they needed. And Charles wasn't really in love with her. She was in love with him, or she thought she was in love with him and acted in that regard. And it was a total mismatch. Now, here's what I want to talk about. And this is what struck a chord with me. And I think over the next few decades, we're going to start hearing more and more information about the subject I'm going to start talking about. And you guys know I've actually been through this. So the Windsor family, they blamed what was going on in their relationship on Diana. Diana was the punching bag. They were mad at her because she was the most popular person. She got more attention. If she actually did well in an event, they got mad because it took away attention from them. It doesn't make any sense. You do well and you get punished in a sense. She couldn't do anything right. And as a result of not having a husband that was faithful to her and just completely iced her out, and a whole family that wasn't supportive, she became in a very bad state. Lot of depression. And it's interesting because it caused her a lot of mental health issues. On top of that, it also caused her, I have to be very careful how I say this, issues where you have issues eating and maybe keeping your food down forcefully. Please infer, because YouTube is YouTube and I can't fully say this. And the whole time, everybody, including Charles, was blaming the dissolution of their marriage and their union because Diana's acting crazy again. She's acting crazy. And to them, they looked at it and assessed she is just not functioning correctly. When Diana was in a world of hurt, she was also sometimes hurting herself, please infer. And she was desperately trying to get somebody to listen to her, to acknowledge how she felt, to acknowledge her pain and not just punish her for even acknowledging that it was there. And you guys have to remember, she's in her late teens and early 20s, y'all, going through this, and she's alone. It was dark. She said that there are years of her life she's blocked out a lot when she had her children because it was such a dark time for her, which I think a lot of us have been through that. That makes sense, right? So when it comes to Princess Diana, a few things I want to point out. They really harped on her mental health issues. She is not mentally well, although they did try to hide it from people to an extent because they always want to put this picture up that everything is great, even when it's not. That's how they play their cards. And that's why to them, you just need to have that stiff upper lip, not show any emotion, and just keep going. But Diana decided, I'm going to be a human being like most of us would. She can't fit into that mold, and they were waiting for her to break to become like them, and she couldn't do it. So what Diana talks about is when she and Charles finally parted, she ended up getting therapy for her issues. And she had been to a couple therapists, and I found this so interesting because you guys know some of my story with this. She'd been to a couple therapists in her situation, and the therapists all just tried to drug her and give her things like Vicodin and basically keep her in a zombified state. Well, here's the thing. I think mental illness medication can help people if that is the issue that you have, if it is something that medication can help. What I feel like we don't talk about in society enough is that many issues are not because you have some sort of imbalance. In fact, there's a lot of literature that's proven there's a lot of that's false. And I'll go into this in just a second. And by the way, I'm not telling you what to do or do with your mental health or what to not do. I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to relay some information to you and some insights that I'm seeing. So don't take this as any advice on me saying you should do this or that. Everybody's personal, physical, and mental health, you guys have your own set of issues, your own set of needs, and I'm not here to tell you what to do with that. So please understand. But they were just trying to medicate her. And the thing is, guys, when she got the right therapist, the therapist said, there's nothing wrong with you. The problem is you're in an environment that's so toxic, there's no way for you to function in a healthy manner. Light bulbs went on because these are some things I have been looking at and saying for several years. My understanding, guys, and you can go look, there are doctors who've been talking about this. There are kind of two types of mental illnesses, or like things within, like when I say mental illness, I'm going to talk about like the depression family, right? By the way, I've also had issues with eating, which I found out later, those issues came from all my health issues. I'll do a video about that one day and kind of tie all that together. I won't go too much into that right now. But in regard to this mental health stuff, here's what I found fascinating. They basically explained your environment is too toxic and is so toxic for you that you are never going to be a functioning person. I just feel like it is slammed down our throats when something is wrong with you, when you don't feel well, when you're having anxiety, take this pill and be done with it, right? But here's the thing, and I've been through this. You guys know I've been through this with family. When I was having physical health issues, my family decided it's mental health issues, even though they don't know me that well, and it wasn't, and that there's nothing wrong with me, and to try to get me admitted into a mental asylum. This was in 2016. This was not the first time I had one of my family members try something like this, but this family member got the rest of them on board. What it turned out was what they kept saying, I have severe anxiety, was a major heart issue and a nervous system issue. and a histamine disorder, and all of these things that got to the point where they were really scary to my life as you guys watched unfold. Like, I wish I could go back and do all of that differently, but what you saw of me at that time, because of what I was going through, was the best I could do at that moment. I kind of made peace with that. At that moment, that was the best I was going to be able to do, unfortunately. I hate that, but you don't know what you don't know, and it is what it is. So, when it comes to Princess Diana, that's what she understood. And once she understood that and started working through all of the awful things that were happening to her by that family, what the right ways to be treated, what the wrong ways to be treated, and how to begin to love herself and heal herself again, the issues with eating stopped. And she started to take back her power as a person and started to be able to live a happier life. It wasn't perfect. She even got to the point where she was able to confront Camilla. It is the most bad A story on how she did this. And she was really classy about it. And it caused a huge fight with her and Charles. But she said it was so freeing. I just think that takes so much courage. I just love this woman so much. I have so much love in my heart. I feel like she's kind of the embodiment of everything I wish I was, in the sense of she's just somebody who just wants to love people and be so loving. And that's how I've always wanted to be. Obviously, I haven't always done that. Obviously, I failed. And to be like that, it doesn't mean you just constantly give. You have to set boundaries. There's a lot of stuff that I have done incorrectly with trying to emulate that type of energy or try to aspire to that, right? But I found it very fascinating because how many people in that situation were screaming, "You are crazy. This is all in your head. It's just you." And remember, she had this whole family of people gaslighting her for years, for absolutely years. They were gaslighting her that nothing was going on when it came to Charles and another woman. She was constantly being lied to, constantly being told you're horrible when she did great. And when she did great, she got it even worse. Everybody resented her. Her husband's cheating on her. Everybody's telling her there's nothing wrong. And she's saying, "I'm hurting, somebody love me." And they're all just calling her crazy and dismissing her. And I feel like that's very indicative of a lot of the society that we live in, is that we live in these toxic environments with toxic people and toxic ways of growing up and toxic behaviors and, toxic traits. And we're all trying to navigate it amongst ourselves, amongst our family, amongst our friends. And so often we can get into, in my opinion, situations where we are told consistently, it's all you, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you. And yeah, there's always things you can improve about yourself and fix. And it's always good to turn around and look at yourself. But I'm a really bad person about this. I will turn the lens back on myself and I will try to find all the fault with me and none of the fault with other people. And I feel like that is something that people who don't grow up in good environments, with good home environments, that's something they go through, which is something that, is very classic of the kind of situation that I grew up in and probably a lot of the situations that you guys grew up in. And we try to look inward so much that we don't put enough responsibility on other people. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, ew, body, what is going on? I literally had to stop because my body is being weird. I don't know, some weird cough going on. Do you guys ever cough so much that your voice starts to get a little hoarse? I feel like, that's what's happening with me. Okay, trying to get it all together. Come on, come back. So where was I at? We don't put enough responsibility on some of the people around us. And I learned why I do it for me. Maybe it's different for you, but for me, if I'm at fault, I kind of want to be at fault, because if I'm at fault, well, I can step up and fix it. Because I can fix me. I know I'll fix me. But if other people are at fault, I can't guarantee that they're going to fix them, that they're going to even want to fix them. And in that case, what do I do here? What do I do with that? Because then the relationship could be ruined. And these were some things I had to look at in myself. And I just thought, what an interesting story that, she heard so much how she is horrible and it's all her fault and it's because you're crazy. And at the end of the day, no. Her acting out was a symptom to the cause. And the cause was being around so much treachery and lying and lack of love and people who were toxic. And I find that very interesting, because those of us who came from toxic situations with toxic people, many times they don't want us to step into our power. They want to keep us where they are comfortable with where we're at so they can use us, so they can get power trips over us, so they can get things from us. And I found it so beautiful and empowering and enlightening to watch her go through this process of stepping up and saying, no, I know what my faults are. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not the one to blame here. You guys are so dysfunctional that there was no way for me to be healthy. And I think sometimes, I think it's important to be able to look at different situations in our life and try to assess, is that what's happening in our lives right now as they are? So guys, I just wanted to go over a little bit about this and kind of get your opinion and see what you guys think. If you think that I'm onto something here, if you think I'm totally off. But I wanted to talk about Diana's mental health from a different perspective. I don't feel like you hear from many people. Can you imagine? People were just trying to medicate her, even those doctors. And why? Well, number one, I think it's different in the UK, but here a lot of the doctors get kickbacks depending on what medications that they give you. Number two, I think it's just a form of medical laziness that's now taught to many of our doctors as well. If doctors can't figure out what's wrong with you, because remember as well, sometimes you might be having what you think is a mental illness, and it could be something physical that's actually causing it. In fact, guys, go look up how much information there is between the gut and the brain and that connection with those two things and how they interact. And a lot of times doctors will just go ahead and do the easiest route that's going to get them the most money. They're trained to do it. Many times if they can't figure out what's wrong with you, the CYA, to cover their assets legally, they will put down that you are mentally ill. And they do this a lot of times to women. Women are not taken seriously. Oh, you're stressed. Oh, you have anxiety. Well, why are you stressed? Why are you anxious? Let's get to the core of that. Is there something physically going on? Are you so stretched? And that's the thing. Too much stress and anxiety can make you sick. It can run down your immune system. Or and this is another thing. I feel like, and it's interesting, I don't think a lot of the younger generations fully understand some of this. I think some do, because this is still an issue. But the eating issues that people can have, right? And we know there are still young people that suffer from this all the time. But now we have cultivated an environment for people like me. You guys know the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s were all about having those eating issues really pushed on us. If you weren't rail thin, you are fat. And if you are fat, you are disgusting. You are not to be loved. You are not to be dated. You are a lesser person. This was forced upon us. In fact, if women were seen eating too much or eating too much of the wrong thing in public or around men, it was really frowned upon in many ways, unless you were just like a really small person, just could eat whatever you wanted. It was really a situation where it was really, really frowned upon. Guys, this was, and I think a lot of the younger people don't understand, this was a norm for us. This was very, very much a norm. But there's always more going on than what people realize. I'm not going to get too much into the eating issue thing because I'll save that for another video. But I wanted to throw this stuff out there because I think it's good to try to do an assessment of where you're at in your life. Do you have mental, and I do want to say with those mental health issues, I do want to bring this up very quickly about some of what's being said by certain psychologists and certain doctors. They're saying people who should take medication are the type of people who everything's going great in your life. There's really nothing that seems outwardly wrong. You've tried therapy, you've tried digging into your past, you've tried looking at different things that have happened in your life to see if you can fix it. And everything seems to be okay, but you're still depressed all the time. You're still sad all the time. They're saying that that is more indicative of maybe a chemical issue where many people, it's what they call situational depression, where you are depressed because of the situations that you are in. And this can be fixed by elevating your standard of life. So that's why most chronically ill people suffer from different types of depression and anxiety, just like you guys watched me go through, because it's very depressing to be in so much pain all the time that you can't function. I remember saying there were days where I would cry and I would say, I need a vacation from my body and from all of this pain. There were days where I was like, emotionally, I can't do this anymore, but it doesn't matter. You have to go through it, especially if you don't know what it is and you don't know what's causing it. So yeah, I just thought I would go over some of this, and I think it's important to look at your situation and say, is the issue that I'm having, is this something where it's a normal situation, whether or not it's poverty, whether it's not you are lacking needs, lacking health, lacking something that's big and kind of life altering, or are you in a situation where things are so toxic around you that there's no other way for you to be able to function? In fact, many times, like with gaslighting, this is a very big technique. They make you feel like you are crazy. They try to change and rewrite your reality with the reality that they want you to have, to the point where it almost does make you crazy. And then you do act out and they can show everybody, see, person's nuts. So there's all kinds of stuff like that can happen. And I think Diana's story is a very cautionary tale of being able to see that play out on a wider scale and a wider audience. I just love her, and I am so humbled, and I admire her, and I'm inspired by her, because all the things she went through, y'all, before it was really known about eating issues, before that became a real prevalent thing, because that was something that most women suffered with in complete silence, she was speaking out about what she went through, which is huge, because again, more of a taboo subject at that time, even though it was a more growing problem. And being able all these years later to really hear her story, understand it. She was a teenager. She was not an adult having to go through all of this by herself, having kids, you know, having all of these issues happen and everybody saying you were crazy. And she was able to overcome it from the most powerful people in the world. Unfortunately, she didn't come out of this okay. We all know the story. I kind of think, I'll say this, there's too much shadiness. Whenever I see too much shadiness, makes me question. That's all. Makes me distrustful and makes me question. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know exactly what you think. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. And again, guys, if you like this channel, you can subscribe. I'm going to try to put more content up here. I'm thinking 1 or 2 videos a week. But since I'm trying to build the other channel, it just, honestly, it really depends on how much energy I have, because I'm still battling illness stuff. It's not over, but I'm way more functioning, and typically it's not, you know, life cataclysmic now. It's to where I'm functioning. It's just uncomfortable, and I have to kind of balance myself and be careful with how much content I make and what I do. But please go, and if you haven't yet and you want to see more of me, subscribe to Katie's Insight. We're helping tons of people try to get thousands and thousands of dollars places in stimulus money. We are finding different ways to help people and get you guys information to help right now, and that's everything I want to do. So make sure and go to Katie's Insight, like, subscribe to the page, and hit notifications so then you can get notifications for me and see me. Different content, and I do put out a lot of content for that, but I think it's important, and if it could help you out or help the people you know, I would love to have the opportunity to do that. Or if you like this kind of content, subscribe. You can hit subscribe and the notification bell so you can see more of me. Also, like the videos, leave comments, please, and share. All of this helps me grow either of my channels, and I'm grateful for that. Okay, guys, take care. Blessings. Thank you so much for coming by. And, you know, what was I used to say? Continue to be a blessing to yourselves and a blessing to others, and continue to find the joy and the sparkles and all the crap. Oh my gosh, I forgot about my tagline. I have a tagline, and I have a rainbow shirt. Okay, guys, take care. Blessings, hugs, and kisses. Mwah. Bye, guys.